Be yourself because everyone else is taken. Some of you may know, I have attended 2 different schools in my lifetime, and I'm now a senior at DeKalb. I've had many experiences, I've met many different people, and I'm thankful for that. But there's one day that stuck out particularly when there was a new kid attending my old school. We were told the day before he came that he's had a rough life. His mom passed away of cancer. Him and his dad did not get along. He basically didn't want his son. He didn't want to live with him, take care of him, or nothing. And the only thing he had was his 20-year-old sister. So his sister being only 20, she didn't really know what to do, so he had a rough life. He came to our school that day, and all I remember is him walking into our first period class and everyone just staring. No one cared. They were really upset that he came because he didn't fit in. It was a place full of, if you have money, then you're cool. If you dress nicely, then you're cool. If you let people know you don't have that, they won't talk to you. But it was a really eye-opening experience for me. Around my freshman year, when Joe came, it really opened my eyes. And then we had a speaker come to our school, and he had no limbs. So some of you may know who that is. He's a motivational speaker from Australia, and he told us that quote, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken." He may not look normal, but he has the same blood as we do. He breathes the same breath that we do. And what's the point in judging in that? It made me realize after that whole seminar that when we went back into our small groups and we talked about it, I remember just feeling so angry. And I told the girls in my group, I'm like, why don't we give Joe a chance? Everyone just stares at him, and he's someone that needs love, and he needs to be shown God's love. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Well, it's crazy how God puts people in your life, and you just automatically care so much about them. I remember after leaving that small group, I went up to him in the hallway, and I was like, listen, if you need anything, I'm always here for you. Just a text away, call away, whatever. And he's like, I've never had anyone say that to me. And I was like, well, I'm just a text away, don't worry about it. Well, I didn't really see anything change. Him and I became really close, but then people started judging me because of the fact that I was giving him a chance. He didn't feel like he fit in, so he had to lie about things to make him look cool. It got to the point where I just couldn't be around it anymore. I decided I want to switch schools. I never thought I'd say that before. Being in a place that I started from pre-K going through freshman year, I never thought I'd say that. It felt so comfortable to me, but I couldn't handle it anymore. I remember the first day I told my guidance counselor, I want to shadow your school. I don't want to just walk in there and be like, hi, it's me. I was terrified, so I wanted to shadow. And I remember the first day walking in those doors, she's like, we're going to take you to a study hall. And I was like, how big is your study hall? Because my study hall at my school is about 12 people. She's like, this is about 80 to 90. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I pushed myself and we went in there. Right when I walked in, everyone looked at me and they were like, hi, how are you? They were so welcoming. They complimented me, which I didn't expect that to happen. And they were so welcoming, and it made me realize, wow, they gave me a chance and they don't even know who I am. Then I thought about that speaker. That speaker that had no limbs, it was true. There's kids out there that don't have as much as others, that can't wear a different outfit every day of the month. And that quote has always stuck with me of being yourself because everyone else is taken. We're the same inside. Some of us have different things going on, but at the end of the day, we're all the same person. But we just have to make ourselves unique and live out life. And I realized I don't have to go to school every day and wear all fancy clothes. I can go to school and I can wear sweatpants, and there's going to be 10 other people wearing sweatpants, and I can feel comfortable in the place I'm in and be myself. So through it all, there's no point in wearing a mask, because at the end of the day, you're going to be happier if you're yourself.
Okay, how many of you think of a really, really great time from middle school? Yeah, don't everybody raise your hands at once. I thought that I had a couple good friends leaving the 5th grade and going into middle school, but it turns out I had to practically make all new friends. I made a few good friends, but I made some friends that got me into some bad habits. I started cussing around that group of friends, and I started to basically have a fake life around them. I would lie about doing certain things, and I thought that that would make me appear cooler to them. And when I got home from school, I would go back to being the normal, authentic Carolyn, and my parents never knew anything about that. This happened for the entirety of middle school. Until I entered high school, I only knew myself as the fake Carolyn who changed who she was just to fit into what I thought was a more popular group of people. I felt so lost because I didn't know how I'd even be able to survive high school without a secure group of friends. Contradictory to what my peers might say about high school now, it's been one of the best experiences of my life so far. It wasn't until the end of 8th grade and beginning of high school that I started to realize that I didn't have to act completely different than who I was just to be accepted. I came across the verse over the summer of 8th grade and it's from Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand. The overall message in this is very strong and incredible to me. What really stood out to me was the promise of, I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. In the moments of doubt that I had about myself and self-image, hearing that God will strengthen me and help me was very comforting. It was almost an overwhelming feeling to know that I am never in this walk alone. I wouldn't have to pretend around people anymore because I realized I didn't have to pretend around God because He already knows every detail of my life. The sense of belonging was something I had not really felt in a while, but through that verse, I felt a sense of belonging with God. After the meaning of the Bible verse really sunk into me, I realized that it was okay to be the real me, even if that meant losing who I considered my friends. I met a girl towards the end of 8th grade, and I did not know then the positive impact she would ultimately have on my life. She was in my math class, which was also the class that we ate lunch during, so we started eating lunch together, talking daily, and she quickly became my best friend. I truly believe that God placed her in my life at that time because He knew I was struggling to find my real self. I found myself genuinely laughing and not having to keep my facts straight for my fake life. And she appreciated me for me, which is something I had not felt from a friend in a long time. She's now like the sister that I never had. God knew the missing piece in my life, and He did not hesitate to fill it. And because of that, I do not feel the need to try and not be myself just to fit into a group anymore. In reflection of that experience, I feel that my relationship with God is closer because I've opened up with Him, which allows me to open up with other people and create genuine friendships and relationships with them. I find myself smiling often, loving more, and growing positively in my relationship with God and with others. I would not change anything from middle school because it allowed me to become authentic with myself, which only happened because I took off my mask for God.
So as Carolyn and Montana mentioned, we have masks. Those are lies that we tell other people to make us feel better about our sense of pride or ego that we have, or to feel less shameful, and to hide the fear that we have of judgment from other people. I read an article written by Kevin Dom. It was 7 ways you know you aren't being authentic, or 7 ways other people know you aren't being authentic. One of them mentioned how we hold grudges. It shows that our lack of ability to forgive other people for being human also shows that we lack the ability to forgive ourselves. We are also perfectionists when we aren't being authentic. We think that an imperfection ruins the whole thing, when that really is what makes things. It also talked about how you just go with the flow and you're a yes man. You agree to everything that everyone says. We agree to everything that everyone says, and we don't accept who we really are and share our own opinions. We just agree to what we think that the other person would say yes to. And this is a huge problem in our faith because we have to be authentic with each other as God calls us to be authentic in Ephesians. And in order to be authentic with others, you have to be authentic with yourself. And in order to be authentic with yourself, you have to be authentic with God. And it's super important in our relationship with each other and God, because God has authentic love for us and calls us to authentically love each other. Oh.
I was cleaning out my closet the other day, one of my favorite seasonal chores, mostly because I tell myself that if I clean it out, it gives me an excuse to go shopping again. But even though it's one of my favorites, I'm actually kind of bad at it. And I know before you think, how can you be bad at cleaning out your closet? But I find myself remembering favorite memories when I wore that pair of shoes, or difficulty getting rid of my favorite shirt, despite the fact that it's 2 sizes too small. And before you accuse me of being a hoarder, let's think about this for a second. Isn't this so much how we live our lives? Holding on to the old, hiding behind what's comfortable, avoiding getting rid of what might be part of that old life? See, God is asking us to get rid of them, to remove them from our closets, and take up this new Christ-learned life. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians talks about this group of people who are lying about their inner and outer lives to others and ultimately themselves about their need for God and their brokenness. You see, there are all these aspects of our lives that keep us from living authentic, like Maddie talked about. Shame and pride, fear, that's my big one. I could go on, and we have these masks and they're fueled by thinking, I don't want to burden anyone else with that. Or, I would die if anyone knew this about me. I'm the only one who's tempted by that or experiences this. No one would ever love me if I shared that. We snowball into this thought that we must fix ourselves or cover it up in order to be accepted by God or one another. And here's where we're pulled between a life that mimics the world and a life learned in Christ, between wanting to live aware and wanting to blend in and squeeze by, between wanting to take that risk and wanting to be comfortable. And yet we can't have one foot in both camps. And this brings us to this point of wearing masks and hiding in plain sight. But it's behind the mask where we see the glory of God, where we see his grace like nowhere else, where we see our unrelenting need for him. He asks us for authenticity, being genuine about where we've been and where we're going. He's working on us from the inside out, calling us to give up this desire to be comfortable in order to cling to a life learned in him. It can be gut-wrenching and downright daunting because it requires that we give up what we are in order to become who God intends. Now, living authentically doesn't mean that suddenly life becomes easy or that it's easy to fight the temptation to hide. But it's a process of God renewing our minds as we become more like Christ. We're learners. After all, isn't that what it means to be a disciple? Now, I'm not suggesting that you share every detail of your life with every person that you meet. In fact, that would be way more harmful than any good that it could do. But start by sharing with God first. When is the last time we shared with him our deepest desires, our greatest fears, hurts, and questions? Those secrets that we're hiding, or even confessed our sins. This is what we were made for, to live an intimate, authentic relationship with him. And we also need to find that trusted friend or two to begin building community. Not a country club group or a social group, not Facebook friends or Twitter followers, but real nitty-gritty community that isn't afraid to join you in the mess, that isn't afraid to talk about it and face it and run full speed ahead knowing that they'll be met with God's love and grace. It's easy to think, if people knew what we were hiding, wouldn't they reject us? Maybe. But the brokenness we know personally is the brokenness that we all share. We become united when we live authentically and can inspire others both here and outside of these walls to embrace the freedom and new self that Christ is offering. I have to admit that I've been convicted this week. Convicted because these students have learned how to best wear their masks from us, from the adults in their lives. I'll be the first to tell you that I struggle with being authentic. And not to purposefully deceive anyone, but it's almost like an instinct to protect myself from rejection and judgment. And while wearing this mask might be easier at first, it's an incredibly lonely existence, and not at all the way God intended for us to live. Seeking authenticity for me this week meant texting a few of my very best friends who live many miles away, sharing with them how I'm really doing, confessing some things that are hard to say out loud, and inviting them into that conversation. Imagine what it would be like for us to together begin this journey today. How this would overflow into every area of our lives, how this would impact these students and our children. A life where we own our brokenness and marvel in the grace of Jesus. Megan Hill, a writer and blogger, shared, "We live transparently not to unload our own burdens and thus walk more lightly alone, but to intentionally share the burdens of others and carry them to the same grace that liberated us." God is offering us an invitation of liberation, an invitation to believe that you and I were made for more than these masks, that at our very core, our identity is rooted in him. And when we grasped who we are in Christ, this desire wells up within us to live a life worthy of that calling. Are you ready to accept this invitation today? God is waiting and ready to help you remove your mask, to remind you who you are, and walk into the mess of life with you.